What is the scariest oh hell no experience you've had? Early one morning I was leaving a hotel and a man followed me to my car. I jumped in quickly and locked the doors as my butt was hitting the seat. He knocked on my window and I let it down only about 2 inches. He tried his best to convince me I dropped a key in the parking lot and should get out and get it. It was a ploy and I knew it. I finally looked him in the eye and said, "No, not me." He knew I meant that he wasn't getting me. I wasn't scared, but instead furious. I left before he did and hurried to get onto the interstate. With heavy 5-lane traffic he came flying up behind me and then, right before slamming into me, he darted left between cars, almost causing an accident. I couldn't report him because I left so quickly and didn't get his plate number. I never stayed at that hotel again while traveling that route. I work for a food delivery service, and on one delivery I had to go about 2 miles down a one-way road at about 10:30 p.m. There were banks on both sides, so if I wanted to leave and another car came down the road I wouldn't be able to get out and would have to reverse backwards to a driveway. Houses around were pretty scattered and everyone's driveways were at least 100 yards from the houses. I took notice of this driving in because I'm a woman and had my guard up. I get to the address, which is an abandoned home with no lights, and the driveway is blocked off with boards, and immediately the hair on the back of my neck stood up. It was a dead end and the nearest house was about 700 to 800 yards away. I parked and locked my doors and called the customer, and they said they were in the trailer across the street and they would come out to meet me. There was no trailer across the street at all, but this dude came off of a dirt trail and started walking up to my car. As they were coming towards me, the guy asked if I could wait about 5 minutes for his friend to come back with a tip for me. The bill was already paid and I politely declined, saying that I had to go back to work out of being scared. He then got a phone call and his literal words were, "Yeah bro, can we make this happen? Are you on the road or what?" I put the food on the ground, said goodbye and booked it out of there so quick you could probably see dust behind me. That incident taught me to always trust my gut and to never worry about the tip. I could have just been extremely paranoid, but I feel like I got lucky that time. Worked at a coffee shop. One of the baristas was cleaning the bathroom. Hear her literally yell, "Yep." She comes to get me, saying I need to take care of a weird looking spider. I love bugs and get kind of excited to catch and release the weird looking spider outside. Walk into the bathroom and it's not a spider, it's a reffing scorpion. I stepped into an elevator on the 8th floor of a hotel and hit the 10th floor button. Right before the doors closed, a group of at least 15 people jammed themselves in while I'm standing in the back corner. The elevator was rated for 10 adults. Instead of going up, the elevator slowly started to go down. After half a floor, the elevator went into free fall for roughly 2 floors until the emergency cable caught. I thought I was going to die that day. A car accident in my early 20s. I was driving around a bend under a freeway on my last lesson before going for my probationary license when a car driving at least 70 km/h over the limit, 160 km/h in a 90 km/h zone, about 100 miles per hour in a 55 zone, smashed into my rear driver's side. The car I was driving spun out of control and smashed into an underpass. My teacher and I were both desperately lucky to be alive, though we both sustained serious injuries. I was in the air very ill from pneumonia. Think 4 staff in the cubicle with me the entire time for about an hour while they diagnosed what was wrong with me. I originally went to urgent care and sat in the waiting room for 45 minutes, and the moment they triaged me, they sent me to the ER. Anyway, after about an hour and a maximum of 10 people in working on me at once, I had an 4th in each arm and everyone left. I was completely alone, still going in and out of consciousness because of low O2 Saturday. Whoops, turns out I'm allergic to one of the antibiotics. By the time I noticed, my hands and wrists were too swollen to hit the call nurse button, and so I was just flailing my sausage arms at the equipment as hard as I could, not very, until someone came to check on me. It took the staff maybe 30s to figure out what was wrong with me once they came in, but it was some of the longest 30s of my life. because I couldn't communicate with them and I had come out of the frying pan and into the fire. At least I knew it was anaphylaxis and wasn't just suddenly dying from. I did community service at the local hospital. One of my duties were to deliver the food menus early morning to every patient, so that meant starting my rounds around 5 to 6 am. The first floor was ICU, and it was still fairly dark around that time. I walked into a patient's room and all the blinds were shut, and the only light that lit the room came from the equipment she was hooked up to. I wasn't sure if she was awake or not, and so I announced myself and waited for a response. Sometimes patients were unable to make meal choices, and so I would stick around to help them out. I stood there for a couple seconds and saw her eyes closed shut. Thinking she was still asleep, I made my way towards the door. Halfway through, with my back towards her, I hear her say, "Make sure they don't follow you out." I stopped in my tracks and slowly turned around and saw that her eyes were still closed and quickly ran the F out of there. There was no one in that room except her. Trekking through the woods behind my friend's house while playing manhunt. Midnight in December. No sensible reason for anyone to be outside. Snow everywhere. I'm walking along and approach this ramshackle cabin/crack house. Hear a faint squeaking of a swing set moving back and forth. Audibly to my friend, who was with me, I say, "What the F is that?" Dead effing silence ensues. The swing stops moving the minute I stop talking. I'm not known for my running, but I think I broke land speed records that day. I just recently moved out of the north. Where I lived in particular happened to be a very tick infested place some seasons. Well, one day I pulled a huge one off my dog, grabbed an old shoe, and flattened that bugger. When I lifted up the shoe I noticed a good amount of blood moving all strange like. Upon closer investigation it turned out to be little microscopic babies moving around. It gave me the most oh hell no feeling I've probably had. I ended up torching the concrete for like a minute straight. Took care of the situation quite well. Last week when I started the BBQ, went inside to grab the things, and came back out to see the entire grill and top of the tank entirely engulfed in flames. Apparently we had a leak we didn't notice. I managed to throw water on the tank and cut the flames asap, so thankfully no real damage, but I think I'm done booking for the year. When the spider disappears. Oh my goodness, that's the worst. Was watching TV, sitting on my couch, when I saw the silhouettes of three me, one with a gun drawn, walking up to my door. They knocked on my door. I didn't respond, and sat there with my crappy little shotgun. They started knocking loudly, I guess to make sure if anyone was home. Then they started to pry open the door with a crowbar. I called the police, but by the time they arrived, the dudes were gone. The men who were trying to break in were standing next to a broken window the entire time. I was 4 years old, and I lived with my grandparents at the time. My grandparents' house was not fully developed, and bugs and spiders would come in the showers and kitchen. When I was finished doing my business in the bathroom, I tried to go back outside again, but there was huge snake in the kitchen, so I couldn't get past. All I was doing was screaming until someone heard me. I was in high school, and it was late at night when my best friend and I decided to do a late night run to Walmart. I stopped to get gas. This was before paying at the pump was an option, so I took my cash inside. The cashier, a much older, gross dude, said some provocative things to me. It freaked me out so bad we got out of the parking lot in a hurry. I hit something on the way out, but hid it from my parents. Well, about a week later my dad saw the dent. When I told him what happened, he was livid. He grabbed his gun and went to the gas station. I was so scared. The guy wasn't there that day, to which he assured his boss was the luckiest day of that guy's life.